I think we'll get to the writers have sort of alluded to sort of the motivation behind some of his actions, and so I think we'll get to see some of that play out. I was talking about it before. I think for me this is a great opportunity to play a character that, on the surface, isn't really particularly likable or warm, for that matter. And on TV, it's a rarity to get to do that. Usually, I remember when I started out on TV, it was always like about the networks testing, see how likable you are, and it's it's a part of your cue is your likability. It's like, well, I love that so far. I've got a chance to play a character that on the surface isn't entirely likable. It's actually kind of gruff, and if anything, it's kind of a jerk. Maybe the last episode 10, maybe turns you a little bit. But as long as they allow me to play this sort of a slow burn, I'd like to not be the obvious sort of likable sort of character for as long as I can do it. With obviously, showing, like you said, layers where you see other elements to his personality. But I want my character to earn that, so that if I do smile, it's because Norma's done something genuine.
Yeah. Were you surprised by all the twists and turns throughout the first season, or did you know that he was going to go all over the place like that from the start?
Having worked with Carlton on Lost, I knew that I could always count on, and getting the chance to read the first 6 episodes. I was up all night, reading all 6 when he sent it to me. I could count on him having incredible sort of twists and turns, and he didn't disappoint. What happened, I think, this particular season is that the initial order was for 6 episodes, so they had arced that whole Shelby storyline for it to sort of culminate in the 6th episode. They didn't know that the network was going to respond so favorably to those 6 episodes that they said, well, we want 4 more right away. So instead of sort of reimagining those 6 and making it 10 and spreading it out, I said, that's fine, we'll keep those 6 intact, and we'll start a new arc of 4 episodes beyond that. It's with a reset button in episode 7. So that's why I think there's perhaps even more twists and turns, because it's essentially 2 seasons in one.
Do you think getting to know the Bates family has kind of given him a license to kind of do more darker things because they have a shared secret?
I think there's some darkness with my character already to begin with, but I think what the Bates family provides, I think for my character, is sort of a foil, especially Norma. She's she has come into this town that sort of works one way, even though obviously there's back and forth. You see a man being burned to death. But it's almost accepted, the way that Shelby deals with traffic. It's like, yeah, it's just another burning. It's payback for something else. And it's almost the way things are done there. And along comes this woman with this really odd Oedipal dynamic with her son, buys into a motel that has a history already, a pretty bad one, and says, no, this is how I run things, and everyone has to sort of acquiesce to my demands, and she's sort of unafraid almost, and a lot of it is spurred by the love for her son. That fear, I think she was tampered by her love for her son. But I think, with respect to the sheriff, I think he sees her as this sort of force of nature who's come in and he's angered by her, infuriated by her on the one hand. On the other hand, he's sort of in awe of her. He's like, wow. And I love that they've sort of allowed us to sort of have a cat and mouse where on the one hand I may come to her aid, and then as soon as I help her, she manages to screw it all up and make me hate her. So I hope that they continue that dynamic.
Well, he seemed pretty open to just killing Gerbert's character Abernathy at the end of that season, and it seemed like he'd been given permission with himself, or maybe in the eyes of the Bates family, to do literally anything, whatever it takes.
I think you're right. I think this is a character that I think he draws a line at certain things, and I think definitely draws a line at sex trade, especially when it involves a 15-year-old girl. So I think in that we can like him for that for sure. And I think that's where, if he's a man who believes in the justice system, the conventional justice system that we follow in our country, he doesn't think that things like this necessarily belong there, because he doesn't want to jeopardize the result, perhaps, and he wants to sort of take matters in his own
So what about the murder of a high school teacher? How does he react to that?
Well, that's a very good question, and I have to plead the fifth on that one. But it's going to be addressed. Obviously, there's a cliffhanger, so it'll be front and center at some point very early on. But
is it possible that he takes it a little personally, or?
I think, absolutely. I think he takes everything that happens in the town personally. Even with a newcomer like Norma, it affects him. I think he doesn't let it show most of the time, but I think that's what what I was alluding to before is I think we're going to get under his skin and find out what motivates him, and his moral compass. How does it sway, and what tips it either way, and what's the source of his angst? Because he's got some angst, and I think we're going to find that out.
You were talking about working with Carlton before.
Yes.
How has he evolved as a writer and as a producer, and how different it is to work before for a network show and now for a cable show?
Sure. I think Carlton's getting better. I think he's learned a few things. When I came on to Lost, I came on as a guest star, with possible recurring. I didn't know how it was going to develop. After I was asked back for a few episodes, Carlton, I had lunch with Carlton, an incredible lunch with him, and he talked to me about sort of the success, Lost, and because I asked him, what is behind the success of this show? I mean, I know it's an extraordinary show, but tell me why, as a layman. And he said, look, the only way I can quantify it is one of the reasons is it's really great. It's a character-driven show. And it's an excuse to do a character-driven show. And to me, that's the best writing. And because you care about the characters in some way. You either love them, hate them, love to hate them, but you're invested. And that's the strongest writing. And also, it's more genuine because a scene isn't a scene because this has to happen. It's because this character needs this. And he has continued that extraordinary character-driven sort of writing onto this show, which is no surprise to me, and very nuanced. And I love now that he's sort of ventured, into this world of this Oedipal dynamic, which is at the heart of the show, which is an age-old question, an age-old dynamic, obviously in Oedipus Rex. But it's really brilliant. He's taken the basic premise of Psycho, actually, and sort of asked the question, well, what drove Norman to that? Was it a product of his Oedipal dynamic with his mother that he sort of came up with? Was he born with that? Is it a genetic thing? Are you born a psychopath? Do you develop into one? Is it a combination of both? It's a great question, and I'm not surprised he raised it.
Well, would it surprise you to know that your co-stars, Max and Olivia, are rooting for Sheriff Romero and Norma to get together?
That's very sweet, and I hope if there is any, if that is ever consummated, if it ever develops, it's in season 5, and I want to pay for my kids' school for a few years, because otherwise Norman's going to kill me. And knock on wood, I get to live as long as I do.
So you're like, no, we're putting a kibosh on that kind of romance.
Listen, I've already told the writer, slow down. If you have intentions, I said, I don't know what your intentions are with the two. If you do, I'm in no hurry. I don't mind commuting to Vancouver. This is all good. I love this job. Let me stick around for a while. So I don't know. Honestly, whatever serves the story. But selfishly, no. Selfishly, of course, I would love to explore that more because it's so much fun working with Vera and doing the cat and mouse thing is something I enjoy so much, and obviously getting to work with her on a daily basis is a treat. But I also want to make sure that if it does happen, that it's well earned. I don't want it would cheapen it if it was just like, oh, okay, it makes sense. I would love for her. I would love for us to try and get close together, and for her to mess it up as she has already done it at sort of a micro level. On a macro level, I would like to continue. But yeah, it wouldn't be bad if ultimately, you never know.
All right. Well, thank you very much.